Dear Professor and dear colleagues, good morning. For the question of the activity number 3, how could the common protocols for intercultural negotiation can be used properly? Let's begin from the same story from the early beginnings of mankind. From Stone Age, we have been established ourselves as gregarious groups of beings. That mean we're social beings, we're social people that in order to survive, to pass our knowledge, our experiences, and give our offspring a best chance to survive within the next generation, we must and we have created a series of social skills and of social bonds that will help to assure this knowledge passage from one generation to another. We have many types of relations. Family relations, for example, from parents to children and extended family like aunts, grandparents, uncles, and cousins. There's also, let's say, friendship. Friendship with people that share common beliefs, common interests, and also we have work relations. That is very important in order to ascend and to have a better employment abilities within the different jobs we have. We have common relationships. Let's say when we go to the pastry shop, when we go to the bank, when we go to the grocery store, to the machine shop, we are relating to each other every day with different human beings. So this point cleared, let's move on to a more sophisticated panorama. Within the global state of affairs, the concept of global village will help us to understand the domestic globalization process the world has been through the last century has built up a more interconnected world. More countries have better relations this point in history than ever before. So the thing is, in order to have a better development of these relationships, it's really important to set a series of rules. Let's say common consensus reached by the different nations participating in the world state affairs. And this is the moment when we arrive to what can be considered the most important or one of the most important tools in order to do so. And let's say is the global protocol of negotiation. This protocol for intercultural negotiation is the validity and it is well respected because, as I said before, it was created through a general consensus of the participating nations. And let's say it shows a detailed guideline on how to conduct a negotiation process between two or more groups of interest with established common goals. That want to go to want to reach many common goals, parting and beginning from different backgrounds, let's say. The standard negotiation protocol follows also a series of guidelines that a usual dealing procedure will be made up to. Let's say the difference from a current or a usual negotiation process is 3 or 4 bullet points. The first one can be considered the utmost respect for the cultural differences regarding the diversity of the countries of origin of the negotiators. So let's say that it advocates for a standard negotiation process in which the cultural differences are respected, however, they are not included in a direct way. By meaning so, it states that skilled cultural negotiator should be aware that there are many things in many different spheres that intervene positively or negatively. Let's say for the outcome of the results. So let's assume that I'm a Brazilian negotiator. I come from Brazil, and although it's very important as the second bullet point, the stereotypes are just stereotypes. We cannot generalize the whole population of a country or a place by the common associations we have of them. However, and it's very important this, although stereotypes are not important, they are a good starting point on how to develop a successful negotiation because we can have a broad view, and by a broad view I mean that we have a common idea of how we might behave with them. So, for example, I'm a Brazilian negotiator, and I'm not saying that all Brazilians are easygoing, outspoken, loud, that prefer to have high advocate negotiation process within in which the relation bonds and the trust are many important things. But we can assume that my Japanese counterpart at the same time will try to understand how does the Brazilians behave and how to make the most of the deal between the Japanese group and the Brazilian group. Me, as a Brazilian, also have a, let's say, a broad idea of Japanese, that they are hierarchical, they do respect hierarchies. Also that they are punctual, hyper punctual, let's say, and that they prefer not to chit chat or to develop a strong bond between the negotiators. They just want to go straight to the dealing point. They are in a low consensus of negotiation, a low advocate point with the negotiation. They just want to go straight to the point. Therefore, by this and by also the third, well, in this point, I'll mix the third bullet point, and is to have a big study of the cultural background. And I'll say, according to the bibliography consulted and due to personal experience, I tend to think that this is very important because by immersing, at least, let's put the example of the iceberg, just within the tip, I know there's more in the bottom, but just within the tip of the iceberg, we have a broad idea of what we're dealing with. So, for example, if me as a Brazilian start to have a broad view on the Japanese culture, both in the traditional, let's say, the day-to-day culture and the negotiation culture, I'll start to assume that Japanese like numbers, for example. They like a really, not a strict, but a really well-defined agenda in which everything is marked and everything is stated. For example, meeting one from 9 to 10, then after a short break, and then after meeting two, in which we deal the specifications of the business of the, I don't know, the impo expo terms, for example. They like really well presented agendas. At the same time, they do not tend to have a physical contact, and they tend to restrain their emotions most of the times. Also, if I prepare really well, I also notice that Japanese negotiators like to receive business cards both in English and in Japanese. It's very important to them. A small bow is also considered as a good gesture of politeness. Also, do not shake hands unless they show us the hand first. Finally, the fourth bullet point that I consider that is really important in this cultural protocol is the outcome of the negotiations as itself. Is the result of not only the negotiation process, but also of the three bullet points I've mentioned earlier. And it's really important because this shows how the respect of time, how the manners, how the physical contact, the gestures, the emotions, the everything that the negotiators do, it's taking into account in order to have the best agreement possible. So this is basically why the negotiation protocol is so important, because a single gesture, a single word, or a small, I don't know, a small frown could easily help or tear down a negotiation, that by meaning the winning or losing of millions. And finally, the reputation. That is what I think is the most important asset of this cultural protocol: reputation. Not only for yourself or for the company, but also for your home country. That can easily open new paths, create new bridges, or simply tear them down. Hope you liked the presentation. I hope you had enjoyed it, and thank you very much.